Today, I'm super excited to introduce to you someone who actually started his Amazon journey at the age of 17 and has continued to grow it on and on today. And I'm really interested to learn about getting started under the age of 18, when obviously you shouldn't have an Amazon selling account under that age, and also as well how to grow by using your capital at such a young age without using credit cards. So stay tuned. I'm interested to share with you today. Dave does e-com and his journey as well. Dave, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. If anyone doesn't know you, are you able to give a little bit of an introduction and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm David, or Dave does e-com on social media. Like you kind of introduced me. I started selling on Amazon at 17. I sort of started the whole, getting into business in general at 16 with eBay, and I kept rolling capital and turned it into a pretty successful business at only 18 years old. So.
My God, absolutely love it. And just if you just do a little bit of background, so you're 18 now, is that correct?
18 now, yes.
Fantastic. And you're, if I'm correct in thinking, where are you based in the US?
Yep, I'm based in Buffalo, New York.
Fantastic. And are you doing this full time, or is this part time? Do you have a job? Are you studying? What's the situation?
So yeah, I just graduated high school last year, and I just went through my first semester of community college this year. So I'm full time with Amazon, but I also have like school too, which doesn't take up a ton of time. So I consider myself full time with.
So question for you: you started at age 16 eBay. Take us back. Like, how did you get started? Why did you do that?
Yeah. So my uncle, he has been selling on eBay, Amazon, Mercari, all of them for probably 5 or 6 years now. And I was maybe 12, 13 at the time. And he would tell me these stories about how he had bought this item for a few dollars and sold it for a few hundred. And as a young kid, that was amazing to me. That was just crazy. So I always was like, I want to do this. And at 16, I finally got the courage to ask him and my parents to try and support me in doing this. And he's been my mentor ever since and kind of guided me to start eBay. And then, of course, start Amazon as well.
Wow, I love it. So 16 you did eBay, 17 you started Amazon. And before we jump into the Amazon journey, can I just ask, like, revenue wise, are you happy to share like last month's revenue figures? Like if anyone like kind of get an idea of where you're going?
Yeah, so with in total last month, between a few different businesses, mainly Amazon, of course, I did a little over 18,000 in revenue, which is my best month to date. So that was pretty exciting for me. Yeah.
Well, honestly, hey, I hear you, I know this, that you see a lot of people doing like huge figures, but my God, like let's be realistic. A lot of that is around we're using other people's money to do it, and the big challenge between using other people's money is the availability of credit. And credit at the age of 18 is a real challenge to get hold of because you've just entered the world of credit. Like, I still remember my 18th birthday. I think it was on the day I went to the bank and got a credit card. I was like, I want the credit, and I didn't use it, but I was just like, I want to be available for it. But it's really, really interesting. So take us back. 17. I'm going to say you can't start selling on Amazon at 17 because it's against Amazon terms and conditions.
Yeah,
how did that happen?
Yeah, so a little sneaky tool I used was using the account under my dad's name at the time, which he was very supportive of, which was nice. And but then what I did is it was only under his name for a few months until I had gotten my EIN number. I fully registered the business, and then that can replace that. Even underage, you can do that. That's sort of a loophole you can do. So it was only a few months, which worked out. Taxes were okay with that. That's the biggest concern. But now everything's in my name, especially when I'm 18. It was easier to change everything. So, yeah.
So I'm going to just delve into that a little bit more because I think that's a really interesting space. But I just want to kind of do a little disclaimer. By the way, this is not tax advice. Go speak to a tax professional, nor are we recommending anything you're about to say. So my understanding is Amazon, you're not allowed to create an Amazon selling account unless you're aged 18 or over. But what you're saying is that you can create a company, own the company under the age of 18, but the company creates a selling account, which doesn't need to meet the requirements of being 18 because you are not creating the account, the company is. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yep, that's exactly right, yeah.
And so talk to me about that, by the way, can you have a company under the age of 18? Is that legal?
So yeah, the way it works is you can start a company LLC under 18, but you have to have a co-signer as your parent or a guardian or whatever. But the other alternative, which is what I did, is registered my business with my county and then filed it with the state, which then allows you to get an EIN without an LLC. So technically I'm a sole proprietor with an EIN number, which is what you can do with an LLC as well. So that's what Amazon requires, is an EIN number. So it works out. So
and so if I just I'm not hot I'm not good at this. Like I understand UK tax formation. I actually have a US company. Obviously, I trade in the US, but I know that it gets really complex. Like LLCs are like brackets, and then under that you have tax like C corps, S corps, like different other stuff. So you're basically saying like you're a sole proprietor, and then is it normal that you get an EIN, or is it just something with your state that you get that?
Yeah, you can get an EIN as soon as you register your business.
Okay.
The reason I didn't just go right to an LLC was because then I would have to have the parent as a co-signer. You can register a business at any age, no matter what. It's pretty cheap too, so it's less than $100 to do that. You don't have the same protections as an LLC, but you can have a lot of the same tax benefits and stuff like that. So
interesting. So I'm guessing for you, the answer is that you can create the sole proprietor, create the account. Can you change can you get the protections later on? Like now that you're older, could you change to an LLC? Is that an option?
Yeah. I'm actually sort of in the process of doing that now. I wanted to wait till after tax season so it wouldn't mess everything up. But so basically what I know now is I'm gonna have to create a brand new company essentially, because you can't transition an EIN to an LLC. From my understanding, I'm still very new to that part of it, but that's going to be a fun process trying to transfer everything over again. But it's worth it for all the protections you get. So that's one of the things I got to do very soon. Yeah.
My God, hey, well done! And it's a real I appreciate getting it right in the US is not easy, and also so if you get it wrong, the fines are pretty hefty. You got to get it right, haven't you? So if anyone's watching, just make sure you're getting it right. So I know we spoke a little bit off air beforehand, and you talked you created the account in your father's name, I believe it was, and then you transitioned it over to your company, which technically was still under the age of 18, but you kind of got the loophole. Tell me about that. How does that work? I understand you can't transfer accounts. How does it? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I sort of just was Googling and asking around to other people in the community to see what their opinions were. And a lot of people said contact Amazon support and see what they say, which is what I ended up doing. And they're very willing to help you. It's not always the most, extensive help, but they do guide you in the right direction. And they did help me, especially when you're changing your bank account information. If you don't contact them before, there's a higher chance that they might suspend your account or lock you out for a little while. So I definitely recommend if you're going to change your bank account or any of those vital information, definitely contact support before. That way they can, do whatever they need to do to make sure your account stays active. So using their help is what allowed me to change everything.
So just talk me through, how long did it take? What were the steps in the process? Any advice and learnings for people who are looking to maybe do the same thing, change it? What advice? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So the first thing that I did was I changed from my father's social security number to my EIN number. That was the first step, that's all the tax info. So that's probably the most important. Second thing was the bank account, which was probably the harder part of it because like I said, you have to contact and then you have to verify your bank account. And that was a bit of a challenge. But again, that's the second step that I took. The third step was then changing all the, when you FBM, your address, the name on the address, your return address, your business address, all that, which was just changing the name to my name, not the actual address. Now, changing the actual address itself, within an account, I don't know that you're allowed to do that. I'm guessing you can because people move, but I do not know the process to that. I'm sure, again, seller support could help you, but if you're going to do any of those changes, any of those big things, contact them and they will help you out. That's the best advice I can give for that.
How long did the whole process take you, from start to finish?
I mean, yeah, I definitely was not in a huge rush, so maybe a week of doing one thing at a time. It wasn't that long. The bank account is what took a few days to get approved, getting back on the calls with seller support to get that figured out. But as far as the EIN, putting that in replace of the social security, that was maybe an hour at most. So it doesn't take a terribly long time, which is nice. They're expedited with all that. So.
Cool. And just, I'm not hot, but creating the bank account, obviously I'm guessing that's for the business, so that wasn't a problem even though you were under the age of 18. Was that right?
Yeah, but by the time I did it, I was 18, but you can do it under 18. It's no different than creating a regular personal bank account under 18. Just because you have your EIN and they'll make you an account, it doesn't really make a difference. So yeah.
Cool. I absolutely love it. Honestly, really well done. And I think that's a really interesting journey. Why? My God, getting started, is challenging enough. Number two, doing it under the age of 18, which is a real challenge, and you're finding the loopholes. But number three, then transitioning from, should we say, your parent into yourself is, it's a tough journey. And I know, like, the messages I get where like, oh my God, I want to change this, I'm worried about being shut down. I'm like, just talk to someone. Stop sitting here complaining and worrying. Like, you've got to go speak to Amazon. They're the people who are going to help you out. And what's really funny is I always think about like Amazon Seller Central support is kind of like, it's like talking to a brick wall, or like talking to a robot which just repeats it back to you in automated fashion. You're like, you don't understand. It sounds like it wasn't too bad. 1 week's a pretty good kind of turnaround. I thought it'd be much longer.
Yeah, sometimes you got to ask, hey, can I speak to a manager or something like that? Especially because a lot of them are foreign. They have heavy accents. It's hard to understand them over the phone sometimes. So simply like being upfront and honest about that is probably better than just hanging up and calling back. That is one of the challenges for sure, but again, it's an obstacle you can overcome.
So can I ask, like, across the time of doing all the changes and you having to speak to Seller Central support, how many times did you have to call them? And of those times, how many would you say on average you asked to speak to a manager or supervisor?
I mean, a lot of the time, I don't know exactly how many times I had to call, like, total for all that transitions. I'd say probably less than 5. But asking, I remember I had to ask for a manager, I think once or twice. But most of the time, they have an accent, but it's something you can, you just really got to listen really closely and maybe ask them to repeat themselves a few times. But, I don't want to be rude, so.
I understand. Massive respect for them. Like, Amazon's a big beast, it's a machine, and we're part of that as well. And I think they do a great job. It's sometimes the language can be a challenge. I think for me, from my personal perspective, it's not so much about trying to understand what they're saying, because we can understand it, but like, have they understood what I've said to be able to put that back into the machine correctly? And if not, then obviously I'm going to be the one who suffers. So that's my worry. So that's interesting. Like maybe once or twice in 5 calls that you had to speak to a manager. So thank you. I mean, on reflection of that whole journey, creating under the 18, changing over, creating the company, doing it all, is there any advice for any people who maybe are going through that, worried about it all, that you would share on reflection?
For the most part, if you're under 18, I wouldn't say don't start Amazon, but if you are in no rush, then just wait till you're 18, especially if you only have like a month or 2 left. If you're a year or 2 in advance, then yeah, maybe go through the process of signing up as a parent. But if you're close to your 18th birthday, don't rush it. Just take that time and just start learning more about Amazon and how you're going to run your business, as opposed to having to worry about having to transition all that stuff. It'll just make things a lot easier for you if you wait that little bit of time. Yeah, if I were to be a year older than I was, if I would have been like 17, I might have waited till I was 18, just for that simple factor. But you learn from your mistakes, I guess.
I think the one thing I would just kind of come back to you with is the fact that throughout the whole of entrepreneurship, one of the most key underlying messages is take action, and take massive action today. Too many people say they want to do something, but they don't do it. And hey, I know your frustration, because the people who actually do it, they're like, no, I'm doing it today. I'm not waiting tomorrow. Like, my God, 2 months, that's like way too long. Like, I want to do it now. Like, oh, but it'll be more hassle. Don't care, I'm doing it now. But you have to wait 3 months when you've done it. Don't care, I'm doing it today. Like, sometimes we're just a bit stupid. But I think massive respect to you and the fact that you've taken that massive action and really driven that business forward, or started that business against what would be massive adversity. And the majority of people say, don't do it, wait. And you're like, no, I'm learning. Like, I'm doing this. I only have a finite time on this earth, and I want it done now. Well done. Like, I wish I did it when I was that age. I appreciate you talked a lot about getting started age, I think it's 16, you talked about 16, 17, going on to building your Amazon business, doing it with your family, transitioning through, talking about building the bank account, or building the business and transitioning it from your parents or into your name. I'd like to move now on to really talking about what it is like to start selling on Amazon when you're young, you can't use credit, and how you've managed to grow this business now with, I think we talked off air, next to nothing. And now last month you did 18,000, and you're still only the age of 18 right now, which I say massive respect to you, because the majority of people are using massive credit. So tell me about that journey, like the cash, the investment, reinvesting. What did you do? What did you learn? Where did you fail?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we could start from the start again. So when I was 16, I started with just $80. I put that into, when you're doing eBay, a lot of the stuff's cheap, buying things at garage sales, flea markets for $1 a piece, flipping them for 10, 15. I just kept rolling that capital. I wouldn't take out a dime, and I just kept rolling it until, of course, I built up enough where, it just multiplies. It's just compounding. So that's probably the best thing that you can do, especially if you're starting with limited capital, is just keep reinvesting every single dime you can. Do not take a cut for yourself until you really have to. And you shouldn't have to at the start. So I rolled that, and then I don't have an exact amount that I started with for Amazon because I had already been doing eBay for like 7-ish months before I started Amazon. But I rolled all that eBay money right into Amazon and started that way. But again, I think like the most common problem people have in general when doing Amazon is capital issues. But a lot of people also have access to a lot more capital than I did, because you can get approved for credit cards, you can take loans, you can do all that extra, financing. I had no option to do that. I only recently was able to get my hands on some credit, and I have one card that's a $3,000 limit, the other card that's a $2,000 limit. I can roll through that in just a couple of days. So, I mean, it's nice that I'm starting to build, good history. But before that, it was just rolling back cash that I had on hand. Another thing that I do now, and I wish I would have done before, especially with Amazon, is taking daily payouts. I know a lot of people that's becoming more popular, and I definitely think it's worth it, especially if you're struggling with capital. Taking out the payouts daily, or every couple of days will help with that a lot. There were times when I would get my account as low as only like $100, $200, and I wanted to buy more, but I couldn't. And if I would have been taking the daily payouts, I would have had an extra few hundred I can go spend. But those are a few like mistakes that I did. I didn't take those payouts. I would have to wait the 2 weeks. I didn't have to, but I did, to get that capital back. And that really sucked because, you find these deals and you can't even buy them. That's definitely some of the challenges that I had to overcome. And now that I have credit, things are going to be moving pretty fast. So
you can get the money instantly that day rather than waiting the 3-day disbursement thereafter. Do you take advantage of that? I just want to know, how does it work for you? Are you doing that churning as quickly as you can, or are you holding it to the end of the month, paying it down? How does it work? If anyone's thinking right now, I want to start Amazon, but maybe they're watching this journey, what advice would you give? Would you say, do what I just said? Or would you say, no, buy the Amazon account? What would you say? What have been some of the challenges, especially being at the younger age,